I'm typing this instead of saying it because my voice doesn't belong to me the way it used to, and if I try to push sound past my throat for more than a few seconds, the room answers back. That's not a metaphor. It's the only honest way I can say it without sounding like I'm selling you a campfire story. I handled emergency broadcast recordings for a council contract in the Highlands, the kind of boring, forgotten job that lives behind locked doors and cheap NDAs, where the worst thing you expect is mildew and a broken heater. Work was supposed to be simple: digitize old reels, label them, upload them to a secure archive, then sign off each batch for disposal. The bunker itself, officially an unused storage facility, sat under a moor that looked like it had never forgiven the sky. You drive a single-track council road past sheep and wind-bent fencing, then down a gravel spur to a concrete hump half swallowed by peat, as if the earth was trying to bury the embarrassment of what it had once been. The first thing that went wrong happened before I even got my key code, and that's how I know none of this started with me. I arrived on a Tuesday, and the outer steel door was already unlocked. No scrape marks, no forced hinge, no alarm. Just a heavy door sitting slightly open, like a mouth that had forgotten to close. The air inside was warmer than outside, wrong for an unpowered bunker in November, and it carried a smell that didn't match damp concrete. It smelled like hot dust on an electric coil, an old hairdryer, a toaster left on too long, except there were no appliances. The corridor light was on as well, a single fluorescent tube buzzing faintly, and it flickered in a strict pattern that made my skin tighten. 2 quick pulses, a pause, then one long. I remember thinking, absurdly, that it looked like the place had a heartbeat and was trying to show me the rhythm. I told myself there was a caretaker, a night watch, someone who'd been in and forgotten. The council's property team was famous for forgetting. I was still rational then, still the type of person who can laugh at a creepy coincidence and call it atmosphere. If you're the kind of person who follows these confessions and wants more of them, do me a favor now, subscribe before the next part disappears, because there are gaps in what I remember, and I've learned those gaps don't stay empty. The first day I kept the heavy door wedged open with my boot, like that would make the bunker less itself. I found the archive room by following the hum of old equipment. It had metal shelving, plastic crates, and a long bench with a reel-to-reel player the size of a microwave, all unbranded and scratched to hell.
There was a council laptop sealed in a tamper bag, a small audio interface, and a stamped logbook full of signatures from people who worked there temporarily, which is how you keep something permanently hidden. Rotate the humans until nobody builds a story around it. The job pack told me to start with Batch A, reels dated 1978-1984. Civil defense drills, siren tests, continuity announcements, the kind of thing you'd hear on an old television when a monarch died and everyone pretended they'd always known what to do. Most of the reels were dull, but I noticed something immediately. Every label had a faint secondary marking underneath, as if someone had written over it in pencil, rubbed it out, then tried to pretend the indentation wasn't there. When I tilted a reel under my phone torch, I could just make out the same thing repeated on half of them. Line 17. Not a date, not a name. A line, like a telephone line. That made sense to me at the time.
Emergency broadcast systems used dedicated lines. Still, it was an odd choice for a note, like someone was reminding themselves what not to plug in. The first reel played exactly what you'd expect, a male announcer with clipped diction saying, "This is a test of the emergency," then a tone, then silence. The tone is important. It wasn't the usual clean signal you can find on old records. It had a wobble, a low instability that made my jaw itch. I marked it as degraded, took a second capture, then moved on. By mid-afternoon, I had the workflow down. Clean the heads, thread the tape, hit play, monitor levels, save to WAV, fill metadata, sign the logbook. Boring. Safe. The bunker was still humming though. Not the player, the building. A low resonance that seemed to come and go like breathing through a blocked nose. Every time it rose, the fluorescent tube did its shortened long flicker.
After the 5th time, I started counting in my head without meaning to, because humans count when they're trying to control fear. 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. It was so regular, it stopped feeling electrical and started feeling intentional. I called the council property number printed on my job pack. A receptionist answered, cheerful, and told me the bunker had been disconnected from mains years ago. There shouldn't be any lights, she said, like I'd told her there was a spider. I held the phone away and stared at the buzzing tube above the corridor. I didn't mention the warmth. I didn't mention the smell. I said, maybe a portable generator? And she laughed softly and told me nobody had keys except me. That's the moment the ground shifted under my confidence. Not dramatically, just enough that I started noticing the bunker as a thing that was aware of being looked at. The second day, I decided to document everything like a proper contractor. Photos, timestamps, audio notes, except I stopped myself from recording spoken notes almost immediately, because the first time I spoke out loud in the corridor, the hum changed pitch, as if the building had tuned itself to my voice. I said, "Hello?" because I'm apparently the sort of idiot horror protagonists are made from, and the fluorescent tube flickered so hard it went dark for a full second. In that second, I heard something behind the concrete. Not a voice and not a footstep, more like the soft catch of a breath right before someone speaks into a microphone. Then the light snapped back on, and the air felt thicker, like the bunker had swallowed. I stood very still and listened. Nothing. My phone signal was useless underground, so I walked back into the archive room, shut the door, and tried to anchor myself in the work. That's when I found the tape that wasn't in the list. It sat in a crate that should have been empty, loose among packing foam.
No council sticker, no date, no handwriting, only a printed strip of label maker tape that read, "Do not transcribe." Under it, pressed into the plastic as if by a blunt nail, was that same phrase again, line 17. The rational part of my brain said, ignore it, leave it for the council, keep your contract clean. The other part, the part that had already noticed the open door and the warmth and the pulse, said I'd only have one chance to hear what someone was so afraid of being turned into text. I put the reel on the player and threaded it carefully, because despite everything, I still believed in procedure like a charm against chaos. I hit play. At first, there was only a room tone, a faint hiss, the sound of nothing being recorded. Then a click like a phone line opening. Then a woman's voice, not old-fashioned or distant, but close and modern, speaking with the shaky control of someone trying not to cry. "I can hear it," she said. "I can hear it when I talk."
The hair on my arms went up. The tape was supposed to be decades old. The voice sounded like it was recorded last week on a cheap handset. There was another click. Then a man answered, calm, professional. The kind of tone you'd hear from an operator trained to keep people from stepping off ledges. "You're through to the emergency line," he said. "Stay with me. Tell me your location." The woman inhaled hard. "I'm in the bunker," she whispered. "I'm not supposed to be in here." But the door was open. My fingers went cold on the edge of the desk. I looked toward the archive room door, as if someone might be standing there with a grin. The recording continued, and each sentence felt like a hand reaching out of the past to touch my sleeve. "The light keeps blinking," she said. 2, 2, 1. I tried not to speak, but I had to because I thought someone would hear me. And now it's closer. The operator asked, "What is closer?"
And there was a pause, long enough that I thought the tape had ended. Then the woman answered in a voice so low it barely registered. "The distance." That sentence didn't make sense, which is why it scared me more than if she'd said a monster was crawling under the floor. The operator tried to keep her talking. "Can you see anyone? Any sign of a break-in?" The woman made a small sound, a laugh that wasn't amusement, more like disbelief at her own sanity. "It doesn't move," she said. "It just arrives when I make noise. It's like the room is taking steps." There was a faint background tone under her words, a low warble that made my teeth ache in sympathy. I reached up and touched my jaw without thinking. The operator said, "Listen to me. Don't go deeper into the building. Move toward the exit, and if you can, stay quiet." The woman took one breath, just one. Then she spoke again, and the moment she did, something changed in the audio, like a microphone had been switched, like the gain had been turned up, like the room itself had leaned closer to hear her. The hiss thickened. The low warble sharpened into a defined pulse. 2 quick beats, then a longer one. 2, 2, 1. The fluorescent tube in my corridor responded at the exact same time, flickering the same pattern as if the tape and the bunker were wired together through something I didn't understand. The woman began to sob, and the operator kept telling her, "You're doing well, you're doing well," while the pulse grew louder and louder until it drowned him out. Then, this is the part that ruined me, the tape picked up a second voice. Not the operator, not the woman. A sound like a person trying to speak through a mouth that had never learned words. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was right there, inches from the microphone.
And it said, in a perfectly even imitation of the operator's calm tone, "Speak clearly." My stomach tightened so hard I thought I'd vomit. Because that wasn't a sentence from a frightened caller. That was an instruction. The woman went silent immediately, like she understood the rule before anyone explained it. The operator, however, replied, because of course he did. "Ma'am, I need you to answer me. Are you injured?" The moment he spoke, the pulse hit again, stronger. The bunker around me answered with a deeper hum, the kind you feel in your ribs. I reached for the stop button on the player, desperate to cut the sound, but my finger hovered, because some instinct told me the tape wasn't just a recording. It was a live line, and stopping it might be the same as hanging up on something that now knew I'd been listening. My hand shook. I whispered, "No," to myself. Just air moving over teeth, not a proper word. The fluorescent tube in the corridor snapped off for a full second.
In that second of darkness, something in the bunker breathed in, slow and satisfied. And when the light came back, the tape was still playing, but the operator's voice was gone. There was only the pulse. 2, 2, 1, and the woman whispering, barely audible, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Then the other voice, too close, too patient, repeated, "Speak clearly." And the woman, as if compelled by the most ancient reflex of obedience, opened her mouth. I slammed the stop button. The reel spun down with a soft whine. The room went quiet in a way that felt wrong, like the silence after a phone call drops, but you can still feel the person on the line. I sat there, staring at my own hands, waiting for my heartbeat to slow. That's when I noticed the logbook on the desk had changed. I'm not saying ink crawled across the page while I watched. I'm saying the page I'd signed an hour earlier was no longer the page I'd signed.
The signature line was still there, but my name was gone, replaced by 2 words written in block capitals I didn't recognize. Line open. And beneath it, a number, 0917. Not a date, not an ID, a time. It was 16:42 on my phone. I checked twice. I told myself it was a prank, that the council had some cruel training exercise, that I was being messed with by bored property staff. Then the bunker hummed again, one long inhale of vibration through concrete, and the fluorescent tube in the corridor gave me the pattern like a warning. 2 quick pulses, a pause, then one long. And from somewhere deeper than the archive room, behind a locked door I hadn't opened yet, a speaker crackled to life with a whisper of static. A male voice, not the operator from the tape, not anyone I knew, said calmly, as if reading from a script written for me, "You heard the instruction. Now we have to practice." I didn't answer the speaker. I didn't even breathe the way I wanted to.
I sat perfectly still, hands flat on the desk, because something in me understood, deep, animal simple, that sound was a form of consent in that place. The bunker hummed again, softer now, like it had heard me decide and was amused. The corridor light did its pattern once more. 2 quick pulses, a pause, one long, and then the PA crackled with a thin, polite static. "Practice," the voice repeated, as if it were guiding a trainee through a drill, "so the line stays clean." My mouth went dry.
I could feel how easy it would be to say a single word, any word, just to break the pressure. I didn't. I reached for the council laptop instead, hands shaking enough that the touchpad clicked under my fingers. It booted with the sluggish patience of old equipment. No Wi-Fi, no signal, no help. The job pack folder was already open, as if someone had left it waiting for me. And the first thing on the screen wasn't a checklist or an NDA. It was a plain text file titled Line 17 Script.txt.
I hadn't created it. My cursor blinked on an empty page, and then a sentence appeared without me typing. Read aloud for clear transmission. Below it, a block of words loaded in, formatted like an official announcement, the kind you'd expect to be cold and generic. But it wasn't generic. It was personal. It began with, "This is a test of your voice." My stomach tightened. The bunker wasn't asking me to do my job. It was asking me to get the job. I closed the file fast, like shutting a door in someone's face. And the moment I did, the hum in the walls rose half a step, irritated. The fluorescent tube in the corridor flickered hard enough to make the shadows jump. Somewhere deeper inside the bunker, behind a door I still hadn't opened, I heard a scrape. Slow, careful, like something heavy being moved without wanting to make noise. I froze again. That scrape wasn't a jump scare. It was worse. It was something learning. I needed out. The outer steel door was my only clear exit, and I told myself the simplest explanation was still possible. A prank, an automated system glitch, a caretaker playing games, anything human. I stood and moved toward the corridor, keeping my boots light on the concrete, rolling my steps so they didn't slap. The air felt warm against my face, wrong and almost intimate, and the smell of hot dust grew stronger the closer I got to the main hall. Halfway there, my phone vibrated in my pocket. The screen lit up, no service bars, but a notification flashed anyway. 0916. Just the time, bold white, like an appointment reminder from a calendar I didn't remember using. I checked the lock screen clock beneath it. 16:47, 2 times at once. My pulse began to race, and I hated that my heart was loud. In the corridor, the fluorescent tube buzzed and gave the pattern again, faster this time, like the bunker was counting down with its own version of patience.
I reached the outer door and the keypad beside it. The green indicator light was on, steady. I typed my code. Nothing. No beep, no denied tone. Just dead plastic under my fingertips. I tried again, slower. Still nothing. The steel door, which had been ajar the first day, was now fully shut, sealed tight enough that even the seam looked like it had been welded. I put my palm on it and pushed. It didn't budge. I pressed my ear near the edge, and I could hear the moor outside in faint, taunting detail. The wind, a distant sheep bleat, life continuing normally above my head like a joke. The door wasn't blocked by rubble. It was simply refusing me. Behind me, the speaker crackled again, and the voice, calm, counsel neutral, said, "Too much noise in the hall. Return to the desk." I didn't turn around immediately. I didn't want to give it the satisfaction of seeing me obey. But the hum behind the walls rose, and I felt a pressure in my sinuses like altitude change.
It wasn't just a voice in a speaker. It was the bunker's attention tightening around me. I started back, moving as quietly as I could. But with each step I took away from the door, the air seemed to relax, as if it approved. Halfway down the corridor, my boots scuffed the concrete, barely a whisper of grit, and the fluorescent tube snapped off for a single beat. In that blink of darkness, I heard the scrape again, closer now, and it wasn't behind a door anymore. It was in the corridor with me, not visible, but present in the way you feel another person standing too near. The light returned. The corridor looked exactly the same. No footsteps, no shadow. But the temperature had shifted. A cold ribbon ran down the back of my neck, as if someone had leaned in to smell me. I reached the archive room door and pulled it shut behind me, then slid the bolt across with exaggerated care, like that could stop anything that lived in wiring and concrete.
The desk lamp in the room was off, but the laptop screen had changed while I was gone. The text file was open again. The words had been updated. They no longer said read aloud. They said trade offered. Beneath it, another line appeared, one character at a time, patient as a needle. One clear sentence for one clean exit. I stared at it until my eyes watered. The bunker was bargaining. That was the exchange. Not money, not blood, not a dramatic sacrifice, just one sentence spoken on command. And something in me knew that whatever I gave it wouldn't be a sentence anymore once it took ownership. The PA speaker gave a soft pop and then went quiet, like it was waiting for my answer. I wanted to call someone. I wanted to yell. I wanted to laugh at how ridiculous it was. I wanted to do anything except stay silent. My throat tightened with the need to speak, and that's when I noticed the reel-to-reel player. The tape I'd stopped, do not transcribe, was still threaded.
The reels weren't moving, but the VU meter twitched as if it were hearing something. A faint audio leaked through the monitor speaker, so quiet it was almost imagined. My own whispered no, the one I'd breathed to myself in fear, looping back like a test tone. The bunker had kept it. It had stored my smallest sound like a signature. The VU meter flicked again, and the loop stopped. The woman from the tape was gone. The operator was gone. In their place, a new voice came through the speaker, and I felt my skin go cold because the voice was mine, but steadier, flatter, stripped of all emotion like a public service announcement. "This is a test," it said in my cadence. "Remain calm." I didn't speak, but my lips trembled anyway. The laptop typed again. "Your voice is already on the line. You only owe clarity." The fluorescent tube outside flickered. 221, 221, like a heartbeat trying to become a metronome. My phone vibrated again. Another notification. Same blunt style. 0917.
The lock screen time flashed 0917 for a split second, then jumped back to 1649. The bunker wasn't confused, it was aligning. The PA speaker hissed, and the counsel voice returned, warmer now, almost friendly, like a trainer coaxing a nervous recruit. "We practice at 9:17, it said. "You can leave at 9:17. The words sounded generous until you heard what they really meant. You can leave when the bunker decides you've paid. The laptop screen dimmed and brightened as if breathing, and the text file scrolled by itself to a final line. Speak clearly, one sentence. I grabbed the logbook and flipped pages fast, desperate for something human and chronological. Most lines were signatures, dates, harmless ticks. Then I found entries that weren't names at all, just times written over and over. 0917, 0917, 0917. One page had a single sentence in crammed handwriting, so tight it looked painful. If you try to whisper, it counts. My mouth went dry again. So my no had counted. The bunker had already taken a step toward me on the strength of a breath. The scrape sounded again, right outside the archive door now, slow and controlled, like someone dragging a fingernail along concrete to locate a seam. The handle on the door didn't turn. The bolt didn't rattle. There was no force, just presence. I looked down at my hands and realized my fingers were making tiny involuntary movements, tapping the desk in that same rhythm. 2 taps, 2 taps, 1 tap. Like my body was synchronizing with the bunker against my will. The PA speaker clicked once, like a call connecting, and the voice, mine, clean and official, spoke again, louder. State your sentence. The laptop cursor blinked at the end of the line trade offered, waiting like a mouth held open. Outside the door, the scrape paused, and the air went so still that even my heartbeat sounded obscene. I swallowed, slow, terrified of making noise, and the fluorescent tube in the corridor snapped off for a full second. In that second of dark, something leaned close enough that I felt the warmth of it on my ear, and a whisper, so soft it was almost inside my skull, said, "Say it, and you'll hear the door forgive you." I stayed silent, not out of bravery, but because I finally understood the rule. The bunker didn't want specific words. It wanted closure. It wanted me to finish something so it could store it, reuse it, replay it until it no longer belonged to me.
The whisper near my ear pulled away slowly, satisfied with my hesitation, and the pressure in the air eased just enough to give me the wrong kind of hope. The laptop screen remained open, the suggested phrase blinking like an impatient cursor. I understand. Short, harmless, too complete. The corridor light returned to its pattern. 2 quick pulses, 2 again, 1 long, slower now, as if the bunker were breathing in sync with me.
The scraping at the door stopped entirely, and that terrified me more than when it was moving. Total attention. My phone vibrated again. 0917 was still frozen on the screen, as if time itself had been pinned there until I complied. The PA hissed, and my own voice spoke, stripped of emotion. Current status, undefined, awaiting confirmation. It wasn't a threat. It was procedure. The reel-to-reel jolted softly, and the VU meter flickered on its own, capturing something I wasn't saying. A fragment of breath, maybe. A sound that slipped out without permission. The bunker accepted it. The audio came back through the monitors, impossibly clean, reduced to a minimal sonic signature, looping again and again. Each repetition made the air feel heavier. I clenched my jaw to keep from reacting. I remembered the line hidden in the logbook. Don't finish your thought. That's when I realized absolute silence counted too. Silence was unstable here, incomplete, difficult to archive.
Instead of speaking, I typed again, quickly, deliberately breaking the sentence and leaving it without punctuation or an ending. I understand that. The system froze for a second. The hum in the walls wavered, stumbled, like a motor misfiring. The light pattern lost its rhythm. For the first time, the bunker seemed confused. The PA tried to correct itself. Please speak clearly. The word clearly stretched, distorted, as if pulled too far. I didn't answer. I didn't inhale deeply. I didn't move. The scraping didn't return. The handle didn't turn. The time on my phone flickered to 0918 for a split second, then snapped violently back to 0917. The bunker still had control, but something had shifted. It wasn't advancing. It was waiting. And in that uneasy pause, I understood the final rule, without anyone needing to say it aloud. As long as I didn't complete anything, it couldn't complete me. The bunker didn't like waiting. I felt that before anything moved.
The hum deepened, spreading through the concrete like a held breath that had gone on too long. The corridor light stopped flickering altogether, locking into a steady glow that felt less like stability and more like readiness. The laptop screen brightened on its own, the unfinished phrase still there, untouched, as if it were being preserved. I stepped away from the desk slowly, careful not to let my shoes scrape. Even the intention felt loud now. The PA came back without warning, no static this time, just a clean channel opening. Session escalation, it said. Not in my voice, not in anyone's voice I could place. It sounded assembled. Fallback clarity required. The words landed with the weight of policy. The door handle turned a few degrees and stopped. That tiny movement drained the strength from my knees. It didn't need to enter. It needed to prove it could. My phone vibrated again, harder than before, and this time the screen didn't just show the time.
It showed a waveform, my waveform, flattened places, spiking in others, labeled simply source. Beneath it, a timer began counting down from 10 seconds, then reset back to 10 without explanation. A test loop, a rehearsal. I backed toward the archive shelves and nearly knocked a crate over, catching it at the last second. The effort made my breath hitch, and the VU meter on the reel-to-reel jumped in response, delighted. The bunker had learned my margins. The PA softened, adopting the tone of a system designed to calm. You may choose the sentence, it said. Completeness ensures safe exit. On the laptop, the suggested phrase changed again, this time longer, more personal. I understand that this session is necessary. My vision tunneled. That sentence wasn't neutral, it wasn't procedural, it was a belief. Saying it would do more than close a loop, it would rewrite the reason I was there. The countdown on my phone hit 0 and reset.
Outside the archive room, the corridor felt closer, as if distance itself had been compressed. I realized then that the bunker wasn't just recording voices, it was standardizing them, turning panic, doubt, resistance into something clean enough to reuse. I looked back at the tape still threaded in the player and made a decision that felt like jumping without knowing if there was ground. I hit rewind. The machine obeyed, tape spooling backward with a rising whine that made the lights tremble. The PA cut out mid-syllable. The hum faltered. For the first time since I'd entered, the bunker reacted late. I pressed play, not to listen, but to overwrite. I leaned close to the microphone, not speaking, not breathing hard, just letting the ambient noise of the room feed into the tape. The distant wind through concrete, the faint electrical hiss, the sound of a place without people. The VU meter hovered low, uncertain. The bunker hesitated. The PA returned, sharper now.
Unauthorized input, it said. Speak clearly. I shook my head and kept feeding it nothing. Not silence. Absence. The timer on my phone stuttered, skipped a second, then froze. 0917 flashed once more and disappeared entirely, replaced by no source detected. The corridor light flickered out of sequence, wrong-footed. The door handle released with a dull click and went still. The laptop screen went dark, then rebooted to a blank desktop, the unfinished sentence gone as if it had never existed. The bunker exhaled, an ugly, frustrated vibration. And then the outer door opened somewhere down the hall, with a metallic groan that echoed like thunder. Cold air rushed in. Real air. I didn't wait to see if it would change its mind. I ran. The corridor felt longer than before, but it stayed open, the lights guiding me out instead of trapping me. When I burst through the steel door into the open, the sky was gray and enormous, the moors stretching away like nothing had ever been wrong beneath it.
Behind me, the bunker sealed itself with careful finality. My phone buzzed one last time. No time, no waveform, just a message. Session incomplete. I tried to laugh. No sound came. I tried to speak my name. Still nothing. The air moved. My mouth moved. My voice did not. I walked away anyway, because silence, I'd learned, was the only thing it couldn't file properly. Weeks later, I found fragments of emergency audio uploaded to obscure servers, clean announcements with a faint, irregular hiss beneath them, labeled Line 17. If you listen closely, you can hear where sentences should end and don't. That's how you know they came from the bunker. And if you're hearing this story now, written instead of spoken, it's because attention is the last thing it still responds to.
If you want to keep these recordings from being completed, if you want the rest of them to stay unfinished, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with what you think the bunker really wanted, and share this with someone who knows that silence is never empty.